There's a giant, angry crocodile on the loose, so Bill Pullman is going to pull his gun in Lake Placid. Released in 1999, by design, this movie is destined to be a fun, silly B-movie that is written within Lake Placid deep into the movie's very genetic fibers in this camping trip from hell creature feature monster movie. Lake Placid features a giant crocodile that's eating everyone, where we learn that the true threat to mankind is not the jaws of this fearsome reptile beast, but it is in fact Betty White. Yeah, that's quite a twist. In this fun monster movie, which also stars Bridget Fonda, Oliver Platt, and Brendan Gleeson. So today we are going to explore 10 things that you didn't know about Lake Placid, because I have just done an episode on Anaconda, so this is going to be kind of like a double bill. And you're probably wondering, why am I dressed like a Big Mac? Well, because in the eyes of crocodiles, this is what we all look like. That, and it's been a very long and tiring day, and I'm absolutely burgered. Anyway, dad jokes aside, let's check it out. Number 10, created by a 90s TV icon. Lake Placid was the brainchild of American writer and producer David E. Kelley. Kelley started his career working on the legal drama LA Law, where he would go on to create many popular TV shows, including Doogie Howser MD, Picket Fences, and Chicago Hope. However, his success really took off in the later part of the 90s, when he created the TV shows The Practice and Ally McBeal, two shows which were insanely popular at the time. So seeing that Kelley had conquered TV, it seemed that he was now going to dabble in movies, where he would work on several scripts. One of them being the sports comedy drama, Mystery Alaska, and the other of course being Lake Placid, a horror comedy featuring a crocodile. So you would think that movie studios would be knocking on David E. Kelley's door to get their hands on his script, right? Well, no, surprisingly far from it. Number 9, no one wanted anything to do with Lake Placid. So seeing how David E. Kelley had proven to be such a success on TV, you would think that movie studios would be more than happy to work with him. You know, sign him up and get the job done. But no, not the case. So this begs to ask the question, why? Well, 2 reasons. One, because Kelley had already written 2 other movies prior and both were flops. One being From the Hip in 1987 and To Gillian on her 37th birthday in 1996, which starred his wife Michelle Pfeiffer. Oh yeah, by the way, he's married to Michelle Pfeiffer. The other reason was there just seemed to be a snobbery at play. A sort of, no, we don't want his script, he does television attitude going on. In an article by Entertainment Weekly, Bill Pullman said that when the people who were finding potential scripts for him to star in found Lake Placid, they said, quote, "Let's pass. It's a David Kelley thing. And, well, he's TV." Oliver Platt further added that good writing is good writing regardless if it's movies or television, and further added that good television is a lot better than 87.5% of the scripts that he's read. I honestly had no idea there was animosity between the movie industry and the television industry. Number 8. A makeup effects wizard got involved in the production. The Lake Placid script got picked up by Fox 2000 Pictures, which is a division of 20th Century Fox, and the movie was also being produced by Stan Winston Studios, which of course led to the big guy himself, Stan Winston, to also work on the movie's crocodile creature effects. And given that by this stage Winston was a movie legend, having worked on the makeup effects on Terminator, Aliens, Jurassic Park, and many others, Lake Placid was in good hands. And who knows, maybe it may have even been his involvement that got the movie into production, or at least gave it more credibility and momentum. Number 7. Bringing the crocodile to life. Stan Winston and his team created a 32-foot long crocodile puppet, which could snap its jaws and could also function underwater. In fact, it actually swam. Yep, long gone are the days of Bruce and his constant trial and error malfunctions. Now that's not to say there wasn't the odd hiccup every now and then. In fact, the mechanics who operated the crocodile had a saying while making Lake Placid, that being, water always wins. Meaning there is always going to be an issue when it comes to water, as no matter what, well, water always wins. I always thought the crocodile puppet in Lake Placid looks great, as it looks like a behemoth hell beast. However, one thing I do think has aged a bit is the CGI. But, you know, I guess CGI has to be used for the scenes and maneuvers the puppet couldn't perform. The visual effects for Lake Placid were provided by Digital Domain, who at the time were becoming an ever-reliable effects company, having worked on the effects for The Fifth Element and Titanic. All up, the crocodile is actually seen in the movie for a total of 3 minutes and 45 seconds. I honestly think the beast in Lake Placid looks great. And no, this is not a croc. Actually, no, I take that back, this is a croc! Number 6. A halt in the production led to the creation of another movie. So directing duties of Lake Placid were given to Steve Miner, who was already something of a veteran of horror, having previously directed Friday the 13th Part 2, Friday the 13th Part 3, House, Warlock, and, Forever Young? Okay, Cookie Monster, give it away!
One of these things is not like the other thing. Can you guess which thing is not like the other thing?
Okay, let's be fair, despite his horror movie origins, he was breaking away from the genre and making other kinds of movies. Despite being set in Maine, none of the movie was actually filmed at that location. Instead, lakes around Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia in Canada were used. But, and this is a big but, filming had to come to a temporary stop due to bad weather. So while waiting for the shoot to start up again, Steve Miner took time out to direct Halloween H2O. And one bad CGI Michael Myers mask later, the production was back on track for Lake Placid. To be fair though, Halloween H2O is a better Halloween conclusion than the last couple of Halloween movies we've gotten. But that's just my opinion. Take it from me, a guy dressed up as a burger. Number 5. Actors reuniting. Okay, something that I haven't really addressed much yet in this video is the two main leads, Bill Pullman and Bridget Fonda, both of whom were big-time actors in the 90s, with Pullman starring in hits like Casper and Independence Day, and Fonda starring in Single White Female and Jackie Brown. And if you've ever watched Lake Placid and thought that they have a really good on-screen chemistry, well, it's probably down to the fact that the two actors had already previously worked together before, 7 years earlier in the romantic comedy Singles. Who knows, maybe the fact that they had previously worked together before really did help with their on-screen chemistry. I would love to be able to say, oh yeah, that Singles movie, yeah, that was great. But the truth is, I've never seen it. Oh come on, don't look at me like that, I can't have seen everything. Number 4. Betty White somewhat reprised her Lake Placid role. One thing that seems to be a highlight in Lake Placid is Golden Girl's Betty White as Dolores, where she plays a hilarious foul-mouthed eccentric hermit, and it's absolutely wonderful seeing her be so rude and mean.
I'm rooting for the crocodile. I hope he swallows your friends whole.
And it also seems that David E. Kelly has a thing about Betty White playing psychotic old ladies. As in Lake Placid, it's learned that White's Dolores character killed her husband by hitting him on the head with a skillet. And several years later, she starred in the TV series Boston Legal, which, like Lake Placid, was written by David E. Kelly, where she once again played an elderly lady who killed a man by hitting him on the head with a skillet. Okay, this has to be a reference to Lake Placid, it just has to be. Otherwise, what are the odds of her being twice associated with that odd specific detail? Who knows, maybe Betty White just has that hitting people on the head with a skillet look about her. Number 3. Alternative movie title. Lake Placid, incidentally, is also the name of a small village in the state of New York. which has a population of just over 2,200, and the village hosted the Winter Olympic Games in both 1932 and 1980. Although I'm not too sure if the movie itself is actually named after the village, but despite that, I think the title Lake Placid works, as the movie's title has the word placid in it, which means calm, whereas the crocodile in the movie is anything but placid. If anything, it should be called Lake Hungry, or Lake I'm just gonna nibble on your bits. According to our good friend IMDb, when released in Spain, Lake Placid was retitled to Jaws, simply because when Jaws was released in that part of the world, it wasn't called Jaws, but it was called Shark. So this was a way to pay tribute and possibly cash in on the fame of Jaws. Yep, 24 years later, and it was still all about Jaws, and no underwater monster movie could escape it. Number 2, Lake Placid's meh release. Lake Placid was released in July 1999, and it made just shy of $57 million on a budget that sat somewhere between $27 to $35 million. So it did recoup its money and make at least a $20 million profit. From my own memory, at the time though, Lake Placid got completely overtaken by fellow water creature feature Deep Blue Sea, as that was the movie that everyone was talking about and the one that I frequently saw advertised, along with the behind the scenes making of TV shows, etc, etc. I didn't see any of that with Lake Placid. Its release was a quiet one. Well, at least it was in my part of the world. In fact, Deep Blue Sea was released just 12 days after the release of Lake Placid, so I wonder if that hurt Lake Placid's box office performance. Lake Placid got pretty mixed reviews. Roger Ebert not only hated it, but put it on his list of worst movies of that year. Which is weird, as when it came to Anaconda, he was blowing praises out of that movie's ass. And when it comes to these two movies, I just don't know how you can love one and hate the other. They're both part of the same mold. As mentioned, something that was widely praised was Betty White's performance, with the Rotten Tomatoes consensus explaining that her performance is, quote, worth the price of admission alone. From my own memory, Lake Placid really started to take off and get more recognition when it was released on home media. At least that's what got me and all my friends talking about it, and it has since become a cult movie. Number 1, Lake Placid became a franchise. Despite getting something of a lukewarm reception upon its release, Lake Placid would go on to spawn sequels. Lots of sequels, where we got Lake Placid 2 in 2007, Lake Placid 3 in 2010, Lake Placid the Final Chapter in 2012. Okay, if you're ever naming a sequel, never call it the Final Chapter, because it's never going to be the final chapter. Unless Lake Placid is different, and did live up to its promise of being a final chapter, thus fulfilling this cliche over making more crappy sequels. Nah, are you kidding? As we got Lake Placid vs Anaconda, the versus movie that crosses over to the Anaconda series. And finally, Lake Placid Legacy in 2018. All 5 of the Lake Placid sequels were made for TV movies that were made by the Sci-Fi Channel, where they all got negative responses. Wait, all of them? Yeah, all of them. Now, I've never seen these sequels, but someone must have liked them, right? Otherwise, why were they making so many of them? Who were they making them for if everyone seemingly hated them? Presumably, they had to be making them for someone. I don't know, maybe some small fringe audience that couldn't get enough of these sequels. Regardless, I think the original Lake Placid is a fun popcorn movie. I put it in the same category as Anaconda, in that yes, it has a heap of problems, but that just adds to the movie's charm, as it is so much fun. I would say Lake Placid and Anaconda make a perfect 90s creature feature double bill, because at the end of the day, movies like Lake Placid aren't trying to be masterpieces, but just movies that say to its audience, hey, come along for a wacky and gory adventure, and just have some mindless fun. And, well, what's not to love about that? And to quote Forrest Gump, that's all I have to say about that. It's a fun movie, just go watch it if you want a good time and to watch a movie that doesn't require your brain. Simple as that. No need to sugarcoat it or add extra salad dressing. If you like creature feature movies, then this is for you. Anyway, I'm Minty and I'm going to pack up my buns and leave because I've got a lot to catch up on. See ya!